So I represent a particular organisation, the European Health Futures Forum, which is an NGO, has been around only for a few years. But more importantly, for the projects I want to talk to you about, I represent a sort of core group of academic organisations and health NGOs who've been working in this policy area and have managed to secure commission tenders for interrelated projects related both to self-management and for patient empowerment. Now, the one thing I want to mention here really is to make the point that the money for these projects was in fact additional to the money within the health programme and was granted by the Health Parliament, by the European Parliament. And I think it's important because this is I think an added contribution and says something about collaboration that's already been talked about quite a bit. And I think I was very struck by the professor from Iona Agachi's comment about looking at the kind of, this is big picture stuff really, that there are three issues she identified, which was multi-stakeholder collaboration, as I remember, the importance of IT and new technologies, and I can't remember what the third is now, just off the top of my head, but it was also extremely important. But they're actually mirrored in my own assessment of what our projects are actually showing, and this will come at the end of the presentation. But essentially, what we've been tasked to do is just to really, they're pilots which will show how empowerment really can be, it's talked about a lot. The question is, do we really understand what we mean rather than just giving patients information? So the first project that was completed is the empathy project, and really all I wanted to pull out from there, you can look it up on the internet, the results are there, the Commission have published them, because remember these are commission tenders. And the three issues really are the interlinking pillars of patient empowerment. Firstly, health literacy. And what I want to stress there is this is health literacy from both sides. In other words, it's not just educating patients, it's also educating clinicians about how to manage their relationships with patients and to communicate. The second one clearly, and that's the little picture, about joint decision making, and that's already come up quite a bit in relation to airways disease. And you could say that today's presentations are an example of good practice and development within a specific area of chronic diseases. With this, our projects are looking at a kind of a larger overview to form conclusions. So. The second project was a kind of precursor to the PROSTEP project, which was a project looking at self-care systems. Particularly, the Commission asked us to focus on minor self-limiting conditions. And again, we had the John Ryan spoke at the concluding conference, which we had a couple of weeks ago. And the key outputs there were really guidelines for promotion of self-care, including communication tools. And there were some policy recommendations, which, again, I will highlight because I think key ones for me that really were important were about education. Again, it's a sort of the same kind of theme as in empathy, the importance of new technologies and improving health literacy. So going to PROSTEP itself, PROSTEP is a tender where it's a list of the following requirements within the tender that we have to meet. When I say we, again, there's a consortium of 6 organizations, and then we have been invited to set up a platform of experts to deal with the things listed under item 4. So what we had to do to arrange this platform was, first of all, to do some very detailed literature analysis of what's available. So there was an analysis of systematic reviews on self-care, to examine how they whether they were clinically effective. Remember, this is in chronic diseases. And secondly, a kind of sister analysis of what was available in the literature on cost-benefit. And actually, what's striking is, although there's very strong data, the scientific stuff on clinical effectiveness, the cost-benefit data is weak, really. And there's a kind of theme running through, really, all of our projects of how much more work needs to be done to understand what's really going on. As a result of this work, we were able to identify for which groups of conditions there was good enough data to allow us to answer some of these questions that were put to us. And on the basis of that, we in fact selected only 4 of the 6 groups of chronic conditions that the Commission had wanted us to study, and these were within the areas of, as you might expect, metabolic, obviously principally diabetes and obesity, cardiovascular, respiratory, of course, COPD and asthma were the 2 principal groups, and also hypertension. So what we're now currently doing is looking at those 5 areas that we've been tasked to do. So this is my final slide. These are the take-home messages. This comes out of a kind of helicopter view of what the work we've been doing in the last 5 years for the Commission. And really, as I say, it echoes, I think, very much Iona Agachi's comments, really, that what it doesn't say there is something I think is tremendously important, which is, and this was stressed, in fact, I gave a presentation a couple of Fridays ago, ending the conference, really was we have to look outside the box. The point's already made about changing the context. There are other players that have to be involved. When you think, people talk about teaching kids more about their diseases, but we have to involve the education system. We're very bad at involving other players, and this is something crucial, it seems to me. And again, the other things, again, stressing, as Martin Seychelles did, the importance of health promotion and prevention. The trouble is, look at the budgets that are available for this compared to the budgets for healthcare delivery. They're tiny, of course. Will that change? It's down to us, I suppose. Then the whole question of health literacy, I think there's a real problem that the Commission themselves haven't got a clear strategy on health literacy. Digital literacy, I think they're looking at now with the digital blueprint. But there's an area that needs to be tackled there. And finally, everyone has stressed the importance of e-health tools. I think that is a major, major development for us all. Thank you very much.